part A of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting under the banner of the Baby Angel Geronimo editions at 08:10 hours GMT on Thursday, the 15th of June 2023, starting just over a minute before that stated time. It is said that today marks the anniversary of the signing in 1215, I think, by the then King of England of what was at that date the Magna Carta. The entry on the Wikipedia on that Magna Carta says that the King John's signature was to the agreement that the monarchy would not be above the law. It happened at Runnymede near Windsor in England. So the significance is being emphasized as being in the fact that claiming that that is when democracy was established, mother of democracy. This is the day. Now this is now 08:10 hours GMT. Within less than, let's say, 60 minutes or 70 minutes, there would be live coverage or live carriage of the key contents of the report attributable to the UK House of Commons Privileges Committee and their formal official report into Boris Johnson in relation to his evidence, especially the claim that he made in statement or statements to the UK House of Commons, in which he said that he did not break the rules, and he has maintained that general position ever since. What this report is saying, and what this report is already reported by the media as saying, is that he lied. Now, anyone who knows about the quote politics in Britain should not have to need the sitting of an inquiry to establish that Boris Johnson is a liar. Now, there are so many absolutely endless, unending lines of lies that he's spinning that no amount of additional lying will establish his lies as being the substitute for truth. Anything that will happen inevitably will be to really confirm that Boris Johnson, deserves to be consigned forever out of any reach of public life, public platforms. Now, the sideshow that has gone into operation or come into operation in the last 24 hours is, of course, fronted by this really embarrassing individual, Nadine Dorries. Nadine Dorries remains the only woman in English quote politics that comes across as really willfully negligent of any care for the truth, for accuracy, or indeed shame. Because in her various stages of lying, she has replicated the lying of Johnson himself. She says she was going to resign as a member of parliament, immediate effect, which she is not doing. She has not done. And so, therefore, what is happening is that it's like, creepily, she is following every step that Johnson is taking. And Johnson is taking increasingly incredible, ridiculous, embarrassing, untruthful, of course, unbelievable, unreasonable stunts. He's making pranks and he's doing stunts, including the latest one that says that Bernard Jenkins, one of the Privileges Committee members who is a conservative, broke the party rules and he attended a party breaking the rules. And he should resign. Now, this is too incredible because the decision has been made, the findings have been published, and there is no way that Johnson's allegation against Bernard Jenkins can be treated as anything other than a most profoundly stupid attempt by an infantile, absolutely disgraceful individual who has no grip of logic, evidence, fact, whatever, responsibility. Now, today is the day. This is a coincidence, isn't it? Because this publication of the Privileges Committee's report today should have happened a day earlier. But by the stupid intervention by Johnson, whose intervention has been the reason for the delay by the Privileges Committee in publishing the report, it has now become the day when the Magna Carta anniversary is being observed or will be observed with unprecedented vigor by people who want to expose Johnson as unfit, undemocratic. And so we shall be, in due course, commenting on this and updating on the whole proceedings that are already underway. Proceedings connected with the publication of the contents of the findings of the Privileges Committee's investigation. So the Institute for Government on their website is saying it's a piece dated the 10th of June, how the investigation will work and the questions that will need to be addressed. Privileges Committee investigation into Boris Johnson. The Privileges Committee is investigating whether Boris Johnson may have misled Parliament over alleged breaches of lockdown rules in Downing Street. On the 21st of April 2022, the House of Commons passed a motion tabled by the leader of the Labour Party calling for the then Prime Minister Boris Johnson to be investigated by the Commons Privileges Committee for potentially misleading Parliament over Partygate allegations. The committee has since been conducting that investigation. On the 9th of June 2023, after receiving a draft of the committee's final report, Boris Johnson announced his resignation as an MP. The committee's final report is expected to be published in the week beginning the 12th of June 2023. This explains this explainer sets out the background to and the process of the committee's investigation. So there is a whole list of questions. What is Johnson being investigated for? What is the investigation being conducted by? Who? Who chairs the Privileges Committee? And why did this change? The committee has been chaired by Harriet Harman since summer 2022. The standing orders, the Commons rules, set out that the Standards Committee must be chaired by an MP from the official opposition. And ever since the Standards and Privileges Committee were separated, they had been they've had the same chair and MP membership, with the practical effect that the Privileges Committee is also therefore chaired by an opposition MP. This potentially helps counterbalance any government majority on the committee. But as chairs do not vote in committee except in the event of a tie. The majority can still exert considerable influence in the committee's work. Previously, the Privileges and Standards Committees were chaired by the Labour MP Sir Chris Bryant. Is he Sir now? However, shortly before the Commons agreed in April 2022 to refer Johnson to the Privileges Committee for investigation, Bryant wrote a letter to MPs informing them that he would recuse himself from any such investigation. This is because of conservative concerns about previous statements he had made in the media about the matter, and Bryant's desire that the House be seen to proceed fairly without any imputation of unfairness, and that the whole House, that is House of Commons, have confidence in the Committee of Privileges proceedings. etc., etc. So, what is happening today, later, we shall be commenting on and updating our commentary on. Now, 16 minutes ago, the Sky News has posted this. Boris Johnson knowingly misled Parliament over Party Gate. Privileges Committee finds. This is timed at 9:21 UK time, which is 08:21, which is 3 minutes ago. And this is the first paragraph. A parliamentary inquiry has concluded that Boris Johnson knowingly misled Parliament multiple times with his statements about parties in Downing Street that breached COVID-19 rules. Well, I have added the word 19, but that's what they meant. The Privileges Committee of MPs found Mr. Johnson's breaches serious enough to recommend a suspension of 90 days if he were still an MP, far exceeding the period needed to trigger a recall petition and possible by election. So the committee also said Mr. Johnson should not be entitled to a former member's pass in Parliament. In the highly anticipated report published this morning, the committee found that Mr. Johnson misled the House on multiple occasions, committed further contempt in his conduct last week by impugning the committee, thereby undermining the democratic process of the House. That Johnson was complicit in the campaign of abuse and attempted intimidation of the committee. We have concluded above that in deliberately misleading the House, Mr. Johnson committed a serious contempt, the MPs said. The contempt was all the more serious because it was committed by the Prime Minister, the most senior member of the government. There is no precedent for a Prime Minister having been found to have deliberately misled the House. They continued. He misled the House on an issue of the greatest importance to the House and to the public, and did so repeatedly. He, that is Johnson, declined our invitation to reconsider his assertions that what he said to the House was truthful. His defense to the allegation that he misled was an ex post facto justification and no more than an artifice. He misled the committee in the presentation of his evidence. The former Prime Minister has been under investigation by the Commons Privileges Committee since last June after an investigation by police, and then senior civil servant Sue Gray confirmed a series of gatherings had taken place in Downing Street during lockdowns. The cross party committee, led by Labour Member of Parliament Harriet Harman, has been assessing whether Mr. Johnson misled Parliament, either recklessly or deliberately, with his statements claiming all COVID rules and guidance were followed by number 10. Number 10 means him. The publication of the report comes after Mr. Johnson dramatically quit as an MP on Friday after receiving its draft findings. He launched a blistering attack on the committee in his resignation statement, accusing the committee of egregious bias and claiming its MPs were determined to drive me out of Parliament. His lawyer submitted a response to the Privileges Committee at 11:57 p.m. on Monday, prompting a delay to the expected publication of the report, as I said. In a statement on Tuesday, Mr. Johnson criticized the delay and dismissed the committee's findings, saying the Privileges Committee should publish the report and let the world judge their nonsense. They have no excuse for delay. Their absurdly unfair rules do not even allow any criticism of their findings. I have made my views clear to the committee in writing and will do so more widely when they finally publish. In a last ditch attempt to disparage the Tory majority panel on the eve of publication, Boris Johnson called for its most senior Conservative member to resign. He accused Bernard Jenkins of monstrous hypocrisy after the Good Fox website reported the MP, that is Bernard Jenkins, had gone to a drinks party in Parliament held by the Commons Deputy Speaker Eleanor Laying while COVID restrictions were in place in 2020. But Johnson was accused of attempting to distract from the report's findings by opposition MPs, while a source close to the committee reportedly dismissed the intervention as desperate stuff. Bernard Jenkins has been contacted while a representative for Dame Eleanor declined to comment to the Sky News, that is. The committee has collected evidence, including WhatsApp messages, emails, and photos from those understood to have been at the parties and those with knowledge of those parties. Ahead of being questioned by the committee in March 2023, that is, Boris Johnson accepted he misled Parliament, but insisted his statements were made in good faith. So he lied in good faith, he says. In his 52 pages of written evidence provided before his oral session, he said it was unprecedented and absurd to claim that relying on assurance from trusted advisors was in some way reckless. That was not what he was being accused of. He also said that while he personally attended 5 of the events considered by the committee, he honestly believed that these events were lawful work gatherings. In an interim report published in early March, the committee said the evidence strongly suggested breaches of coronavirus rules in number 10 would have been obvious to Mr. Johnson. The committee said it had identified at least 4 occasions where Boris Johnson may have misled members of parliament, including when he told parliament in December 2021, we shall continue by repeating this paragraph again. The committee said it had identified at least four occasions when Mr. Johnson may have misled MPs, including when he told Parliament in December 2021 that no rules or guidance were broken. When subsequently investigations by Miss Gray and the Metropolitan Police found otherwise. So we shall be talking more about all of these following this publication that is happening right now at this hour. This is the time is 08:34 GMT. This is right in the middle of the publication activities by the mainstream media in the United Kingdom of the Privileges Committee of the House of Commons claiming that Boris Johnson lied. So let's check what the latest heading. So this one is from ITBX. Now, why is that? No, that is not. That's not the one that. This is. So this is about 4 minutes ago on the Independent website, which says Boris Johnson banned from Parliament for unprecedented lies. Rules Committee. Boris Johnson's committed. Reading that sentence again. Boris Johnson contempt of Parliament by lying to the committee. Scathing report by a cross-party group of MPs has said. And the Financial Times says, Partygate report latest. The 5 ways Boris Johnson misled MPs. That is 6 minutes ago. And the one before that is again on the Independent website. It says Boris Johnson report latest news. Lies laid bare as damning. Partygate Privileges Committee verdict published. That is Independent 8 minutes ago. And The Guardian 12 minutes ago. And we're counting at 08:36 GMT. The Guardian one 12 minutes ago reads the heading that is Boris Johnson deliberately misled MPs over Partygate and was facing 90-day suspension. Before he quit, report finds UK Politics Live. And before that, the Daily Express. Now, the Daily Express is the legacy of lying by the liar Beaverbrook, the Canadian liar Beaverbrook. So this one is a heading that they will obviously contradict in no time at all because they're blind and corrupt and stupid beyond description. Boris hit by 3 month suspension in astonishing punishment for breaking lockdown rules. The Telegraph says Boris Johnson latest news. Former Prime Minister would have faced 90-day suspension for misleading MPs over Partygate had he not resigned completely. And the Times, of course, 20 minutes ago, the Times website, Boris Johnson Partygate report is published. And the Manchester Evening News says Boris Johnson deliberately misled Parliament over Partygate, Privileges Committee report finds. And the Evening Standard, no standard. London politics latest live. Westminster braces for Boris Johnson's Partygate report, which is 21 minutes ago. Now it is no longer bracing, it is already published. And on ITVX, this is Boris Johnson deliberately lied to MPs over Partygate scandal. Report finds ITV News. Now, this is all happening at 08:38 hours GMT on Thursday, the 15th of June, 2023. Now, let's go back to the Magna Carta. Magna Carta was issued in June 1215, was the first document to put into writing the principle that the king and his government was not above the law. It sought to prevent the king from exploiting his power and placed limits of royal authority by establishing law as a power in itself. This is the Magna Carta description on the Magna Carta in the document published on the website of the parliament.uk. Magna Carta was issued in June. Okay, so that is what has been copied that I have read. In 2015, the Houses of Parliament, along with the people of the UK, will be commemorating 800 years since the sealing of Magna Carta 1215, and the first version of it was issued in 1215 at Runnymede, an otherwise obscure field lying next to the Thames River in Berkshire, between Windsor and Staines. Charters granting rights and liberties to individuals and groups were issued. Now, the quote has to be assumed in the word, around the word lords that I am about to read. Individuals and groups were issued by lords throughout society, including the king. There were written records of someone's action and were authenticated with a wax seal. Although its form was normal for the time, Magna Carta was the product of political crisis and an uprising of the leading man of England, etc., etc. So this is not about the news; it's about the background. So let's see what the news about the Magna Carta is saying. Salisbury Cathedral, Magna Carta Day celebration plan. This is 4 hours ago. Salisbury Cathedral is home to the best preserved copy of only four surviving 1215 Magna Carta documents. The Daily Mail says 17 hours ago, this week in royal history, Oliver Cromwell's new model army defeats Charles I's forces. And the full fact website says the Magna Carta doesn't mean you can legally overthrow a tyrannical government. Online claims have been made about a section of Magna Carta that has been irrelevant for more than 800 years. and this is fullfact.org. And it says what was claimed. It was claimed that Article 61 of the Magna Carta gives people the power to legally overthrow a tyrannical government. And the verdict from full fact is this part of the Magna Carta has no legal standing today. It only appeared in the first version of the date of the document, drawn up in 1215, and was never placed on the statute book. A post on Facebook suggests that Article 61 of Magna Carta means the government can be overthrown legally if it is believed to be tyrannical. The post includes a picture with text which says the Constitution actually says you can legally overthrow your government if they are tyrannical. This is alongside the caption Article 61 of the Magna Carta. Now, full fact says this is not true. The UK does not have a singular constitution like other countries such as the US. And as we have written before, Magna Carta does not give UK citizens in the present day the legal right to overthrow the government. Magna Carta, which means Great Charter in Latin, is the name given to a series of royal charters issued in the 13th century. The original version of Magna Carta, drawn up in 1215, following disputes between the king and a group of rebel barons, was designed to limit the power of the monarch and enshrine certain rights. The original version had 63 clauses, only four of which are still relevant today. The clause 61, which appears to be what the Facebook post refers to when it says Article 61, is not one of the clauses remaining in effect today. Whatever the original text of Magna Carta said, it was quickly declared null and void by the Pope and reissued in various forms over the following years. Clause 61 does not appear in the 1225 version of the document, which forms the basis of our common law today. It also does not appear in the version of Magna Carta placed on the statute book in 1297, much of which has since been repealed. So, what did Clause 61 say? It originally said, quote, the barons shall elect 25 of their number to keep and cause to be observed with all their might the peace and liberties granted and confirmed to them by this charter. If we, our Chief Justice, our officials, or any of our servants offend in any respect against any man or transgress any of the articles of the peace or of this security, and the offense is made known to four of the solid 25 barons, they shall come to us, or in our absence from the kingdom, to the Chief Justice to declare it and claim immediate redress. If we, or in our absence abroad, the Chief Justice, make no redress within 40 days, reckoning from the day on which the offense was declared to us or to him, the four barons shall refer the matter to the rest of the 25 barons who may distrain upon and assail us in every way possible with the support of the whole community of the land by seizing our castles, lands, possessions, or anything else saving only our own person and those of the queen and our children until they have secured such redress as they have determined upon. Having secured the redress, they may then resume their normal obedience to us. So there is a long, detailed discussion about all of that. Essentially, the Magna Carta is not the same as a constitution. Although it is in the statute book, most of it is not there. And essentially, the constitution of the United Kingdom, as of this date, today, 15th of June 2023, remains unwritten. This is a unique situation. And so we have been broadcasting for 42 minutes, and we'll go back to the Times today. The Times and the other papers are, well, the Times, the Sun, the Mirror, the Daily Mail are leading with the vigil held at the University of Nottingham on Wednesday in honor of, in memory of the two students of the university that were murdered by the criminal who also murdered a local school caretaker, Ian Coates, and who injured other people. So the Times piece says, it's a quote, look after each other and love everyone. Grieving fathers address to vigil as more than 2,000 unite in mourning for victims of a knife attack. The pictures, two pictures there, captioned the parents of student victims, Barney Weber and Grace O'Malley Kuma, hugged one another at yesterday's vigil. Ian Coates below right was the third to die. And it's a piece byline to Will Humphreys, Marlo Ludwig, David Wood, and Tom Witherow. The distraught fathers of two students who were fatally stabbed during a random knife rampage in Nottingham told huge crowds at a vigil to look after each other. Part of the story says the detectives, assisted by counter-terrorism officers, were still questioning a 31-year-old man from West Africa last night. His mental health and potential motives are a key line of inquiry. Now, let me just say this. These things happen, and as we said yesterday, This is the first time that this man is being in any way identified. The West African man. But yesterday we didn't see that, we didn't know that from the public or publicly accessible domains. What we assumed was that the police and the media were in agreement in trying to avoid referring to the murders, the massacres, as anything to do with related to terrorism. And we said that the reason was that the supposed murderer was considered not to be a Muslim. It appears that it might be a different description now because of the reference to the man coming from West Africa. And the Sun today, the holiday, the Sun today has got a small piece byline to the Sun's political editor, well, Harry Cole, who is expected to be or supposed to have very close contacts with the security services. And Harry Cole says that the same individual who is now being detained and being described as a man from West Africa actually had knocked on the MI5's door in central London a year ago. Now, this is extremely significant. There is nothing else about the incident except to say that the MI5 took the name of this individual and asked him to move on. And they said that this kind of thing happens from time to time. I don't believe so. How was a man from West Africa able to identify any building in London and knock on the door that turned out to be the building belonging to the MI5, which is two, which is one of the two most publicly known spying security outfits operating for the state of the United Kingdom. That's number one. Number two is that there is no evidence, there is no detail in Harry Cole's piece in the Sun today as to what other steps the MI5 people took about this man. The possibility or the possibilities include the fact that the man might have been followed or he might have been followed up. People who are of the frame of mind that includes conspiracy. Is it conceivable that this man was then treated as a stooge, as a tool? And was this massacre at the University of Nottingham in any way traceable to any conversion of this individual to an active weapon in order to create an environment, an atmosphere of fear and terror in the innocent public. If that is the case, then what would have happened? What would have happened? What would likely happen when further details are made public as to the individual's background and the events between the knocking on the door of the MI5 in London and his massacring these people in Nottingham. What did he do in between? Who was he with? What was he doing from West Africa in the United Kingdom? Why was he in the United Kingdom? If a man, whoever they are, either from West Africa or any other country or from any part of the United Kingdom itself, knocks on the door of the MI5, is MI5 not supposed to be highly sophisticated and intelligent to treat that kind of incident as being more than just a passing accidental knock? Why would he knock on the door? In any case, MI5 do not entertain guests, do they? Most certainly not strangers. Most certainly not strangers who turn out to be from West Africa. So, what would they have done with the name? Because he became identified very shortly after the massacres he committed in Nottingham. And his knocking on the door of the MI5 became so instantly known that somebody like Harry Cole, the political editor of the most popular tabloid public newspaper, was able to get access to the information, was made aware of this incident. So much so that he verified all of it and he published it today. So was the massacre part of an action that was planned with at least the knowledge of part of the MI5? That question definitely must be treated most seriously. And the other thing that I was talking about, or going to talk about, in relation to this, and going to talk about the murder of Joe Cox, the Labour Party MP, is this: that Joe Cox's murderer was a self confessed white nationalist fascist. But the proceedings concerning his murder of Joe Cox, in my understanding, the proceedings have not been published sufficiently to explain what are the factors that actually were at play before he decided to murder this innocent person. Why did he target her? Okay, he targeted her because she was an MP, but that's not all. The way he murdered her as described in the publicly accessible information, the way Joe Cox was murdered showed a kind of sense of impunity that that man must have felt, that he could murder an innocent person. He could murder anyone. Because at no stage after his arrest and during the various stages of the proceedings Has there been any evidence that he expressed any remorse, any regret? In fact, the opposite. He persisted in defiantly claiming impunity and his right to murder her. Since when has that become allowable? So the question I raise is this: this man, not only him, but the other murderers, like the man that murdered people in the southwest of England, the man that was identified later as someone who had difficulty in having sex or was not kind of able to have sex or something like that. I mean, why are these acts of murders and massacres not kind of sufficiently explained to the public from A to Z? And what preventative action should have been brought into play to prevent kind of behavior in the southeast of England, or in the case of Joe Cox's murder? Who is to answer this question? For example, the latest edition of Private Eye carries a piece about the currently in post commissioner of the London Metropolitan Police, and it is about the employment by the Metropolitan Police of police individuals, police persons with records of wrongdoing and serious crimes being allowed to be in the police. And I'm looking for it while I'm recalling reading it yesterday. This is the piece which is on page 38 in the section called In the Back. And it says, inside jobs. Metropolitan Police officers, well, I use the word officer or officers within adding with quotation marks because I would never call them officers. Officers is an unjustifiable elevation in linguistic terms of people that do not deserve to be elevated. So the Metropolitan Police officers found guilty of misconduct. So it is even more serious than I remembered. The Metropolitan Police officers found guilty of misconduct are allowed to move to desk based duties within a specialist department whose job it is to investigate allegations of police misconduct. The eye has learned, the private eye that is. Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley, again the Sir is within quotation marks. Commissioner Mark Rowley recently announced what was to be the strongest clampdown on professional standards in the London Metropolitan Police for 50 years in order to root out rogue officers, moving 90 away from fighting terrorism and organized crime to work in the Met's Directorate of Professional Standards, DPS. I'm reading the whole thing here. Alas, there are currently no policies in place to stop rogue police officers joining the department themselves. Freedom of information requests by the Private Eye magazine revealed that two Met police officers working within the DPS, the Directorate of Professional Standards, have previously been found guilty of misconduct while working within the department. One officer received a written warning in 2011, which is 12 years ago, while another was cautioned in 2006. The London Metropolitan Police is refusing to say what these two officers did to result in them being found guilty of misconduct. But both kept their jobs and still work within the Directorate of Professional Standards, DPS, today. Having an existing misconduct sanction will not immediately prevent you from applying for and moving to the Directorate of Professional Standards, a spokesperson confirmed. And the Private Eye ends this piece by the ironic two words, how reassuring. Now, what this actually shows that even Private Eye, which is supposed to be kind of critical of what is happening there in the Directorate, in the Metropolitan Police's Directorate of Professional Standards, and in the contradictory position it is reporting that has been taken by the current employee appointee, Mark Rowley, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner. It doesn't matter how corrupt, how criminal the Metropolitan Police are. There is no accountability for their criminality. And despite the fact that the report, what is it called? The report is called not a report, it's a review. So the Casey review, which the Metropolitan Police itself published, into the police has not been, let's check on the actual review. So this is the piece that has been published by the Metropolitan Police Reserve on the 7th of March 2023. And it says an independent review into the standards of behavior and internal culture of the Metropolitan Police Service. Baroness Casey of Blackstock, DBE, March 2023. Now, it seems that the private eye, whoever wrote that piece, Inside Jobs, does not itself have any confidence in the police doing anything different as based on the Casey review. And the forward is worth reading. It's dated March. So this this paragraph is worth reading in this context. Casey is talking about the mother of two women that were abused by the police after they died. And Louis Casey says about the Reverend, that mother is called Reverend Smallman. She can continue to campaign. The Metropolitan Police can be subject to better forms of scrutiny. I, Louis Casey, can continue to speak the truth as I see it. She, Reverend Smallman, will, they will, I will, but ultimately it is the Metropolitan Police that has to change itself. It's not our job as the public to keep ourselves safe from the police. It is the police's job to keep us safe as the public. Far too many Londoners have now lost faith in policing to do that. Many Londoners, particularly black Londoners, never had it to begin with. I completely understand why they feel that way. And then she says, however, we have to be able to have faith in the police. Now, of course, though we don't. If what the private eye is doing by publishing this one in the private eye, which is dated tomorrow, which is the 16th of June, 2023, which is March, April, May, June, 3 months after Louis Casey's report was published by the police themselves. Then obviously they are laughing at the report. And it is significant that the private eye piece doesn't refer not only to Louis Casey but also fails to refer to the reference in the that is available in the Commons Library of the UK Parliament in a piece dated the 17th of May 2023. Casey Review: Misconduct in the Metropolitan Police and Officer Dismissal. So, why is Private Eye refusing to discuss all of this? And there is no recognition in either the Private Eye piece or in the Commons Library piece of the fact that the police really have abolished themselves, the main duties of the police. And of course, Louise Casey cannot be expected to refer to any of these because she is the mechanical kind of emblem. Louise Casey is the mechanical emblem that is put as the official stamp of reassurance after each of the disasters that are found associated with the United Kingdom as a state and the various agencies of the state. And after the emotion linked coverage of the massacres by the West Africa man of these innocent people in Nottingham, there is no evidence, there is no sign that anyone similarly primed, whether they primed themselves or whether they were primed by an agency of the United Kingdom, would be deterred from carrying out a similar atrocity, crime, and massacre. We shall be talking about all of those in due course more, and we shall be updating on what happens in relation to the latest set of lies by Boris Johnson in the next edition, but also anyone viewing this. We update 24/7 on our Twitter account on the twitter.com/Khoodeelaar. That's where most of the comments are carried. Original, world exclusive. So we are ending this particular one at 1 hour 15 minutes at 09:23 hours GMT on Thursday, the 15th of June 2023.